Right. Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone. This is Paul from the MageCloud, and I'm here with George from Natural Pigments. I really want to introduce our guest as one of the most inspiring, business owner. He's really passionate about, the business he's running. It's just like, from what I understand, it's started as a small one and then grow up into international. So, George, if you don't mind, like a very brief introduction, how this all started, etc., etc.
Okay, sure. So Natural Pigments is, it really started as my interest in art materials. My background is in fine art and in also some in chemistry and marketing. It's just a whole, I worked in several different careers in my past, and so it kind of just came together about roughly 17 years ago, and in interest in providing artist materials that are very unusual. They're not the type of materials that you'll find in the typically art store, because we actually try to recreate painting materials that were used in prior centuries. And we do a lot of work with museums, conservation scientists, in trying to understand what artists used in the past, and we've recreated a lot of that. So, and because of the internet, which really made this kind of niche business very possible, we started quite small, actually in a garage, in the house that I'm living in today, and we started producing paints, and then over the years, it just grew from there. A lot of the initial marketing I did was what most people would call off-page SEO. What I would do is I would, in a way, troll these forums and other websites where artists were gathering to talk about different things, and I would then make comments about their discussion. And since I was bringing more of a science background to art materials, they became a lot of artists were interested in that, because they're not taught about. You go to art school and no one teaches you about paint itself. They put a brush in your hand and they say, go and create something. And that's all well and good, but it doesn't give any artists any kind of confidence in the materials they're using. Unlike many other, like if you're an engineer, you study all the, all the basics of engineering or chemistry, and you understand the materials you're working with, but artists don't, and they're very much handicapped as a result of that. And so we've changed that considerably in actually the past 10 years. And so that's where it got started, and through just the use of the internet, and we were doing e-commerce as well as manufacturing at the same time. So that's actually how we launched without going into. We didn't have retail stores initially, but now of course we do.
So, like you said, 17 years ago, it's like, I can't even imagine, like, do you recall what was the original, software that you created, how the original website looks like, it was like a plain HTML. How did you manage your business, like, from the from the old time?
There was, it was pretty rudimentary, the e-commerce. We actually, I ran across a person, and this is kind of interesting. He basically put together an entire e-commerce platform using just simply ASP type of language and software, and it's interesting. He's actually he works for the U.S. government, or did at the time work for the U.S. government as a nuclear arms inspector, but he knew a lot about software, and so he created this platform, and so that was the first platform we bought into. And we actually used that a number of years. He would continually upgrade it, and it was pretty crude, but it did the job, surprisingly. And then the next foray was into our Magento eCommerce platform. That was the major move into there. And and that's been, we've been, well, I guess now it's been like 6 years that we've been on the Magento platform.
Yeah, pretty
now
stable.
Ready to move again, so I guess.
So the question here is, like, most of the businesses, they started with the eBay and Amazon as the eBay store originally, because eBay had a decent amount of the traffic. You know, in your case, it's a niche business. So did you even start just with your own store as standalone, or you also utilize like other channels or marketplaces?
That was only channel we did, and that was an interesting decision. No, we didn't want to go into retail. We wanted to just be in a standalone store, because one of the things that we wanted to do is organize it in a very different way. And the organization was according to most. Like if you go to an art materials online store today, like some of our big competitors in terms of e-commerce would be Blick or Jerry's Artorama here in the United States. And they organize their store according to materials. Like if you want oil paint, you go to the oil paint section and so forth. But a lot of the materials we offer are raw materials that artists can use to make their own paint. And as a result, then, not all of these materials can be used in every different medium. And so we organize the store according to the media that the artist would be working with. So if they were working in oils, they would go to the oils section. There they would find everything for either making oil paint or amending oil paint or whatever. And then we have watercolors, and we have all these different mediums, and we organize the store very differently as a result of that. And also the brand image was very, very important. So we wanted a very high-end brand image. And so we didn't want to enter the foray of, discounts and price competition and all of that goes on in the internet, which we see as degrading, when you're competing on price points and things like that, then you degrade your overall brand. And so we made the decision early on. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to have this brand where there's going to be no discounting. If we do have retailers, which we did later get into retail marketing, brick and mortar retail marketing, then we didn't want them to be price gouging, and we wanted everybody to basically be offering products at the same level in their own stores. And we've done that. And in fact, we don't take on any retailers that are discounting. We tell them, of course, skirting around all of the antitrust laws, but we give them, manufacturers' retail suggested pricing, and they need to keep to that. So that's how we thought of very differently entering into this market. So a lot of people might go into Amazon or eBay and things like that, but I feel we had to, we do a lot more educational work. So it requires a lot more hand-holding, so to speak, for each of the customers. They need to understand more. And in fact, as a result, in 2013, we established a workshop, 3-day workshop, where we teach artists about their materials. This year, because of COVID, we've actually moved that into an online webinar. So we're teaching, and it's going quite well. We're getting people from all over the world now attending the webinar. So it's an exciting change, and whatever COVID is disastrous for most people, it's actually been actually very different and helpful in our changing, or at least changing our thinking in the business.
So about the COVID-19, I mean, are you finding this is helping your business? like people staying more at home, start going into the, like a different passions that they have? You think it's helped you a
It's
little bit?
it's hard to say,
Mhm.
but we did see an uptick in business this year. So I would say, yeah, I would say that more people um, probably, and many of our customers are older people,
Mhm.
and but we do we actually have a wide range of age customers, but a lot of them are older, and so it may be that a lot of these people um, they wanted to be an artist, or they wanted to do art, and they've put that off, and I guess this year they without any other further distractions, they've decided to really get into that. And we see a lot more people apparently more earnest about their art. And so, yeah, it has increased our sales. But I think overall, I think it's this, like I said, we've been doing this educational work. We've been very vocal about a lot of issues in our industry. And there are some serious issues going on in the industry. That we're addressing, and we're actually a small company. We've got about 10 employees, and so it's but yeah, we've seen some improvement in business overall. So
You just mentioned that you are taking a lot of customers from the, for the webinars that's around the globe, right? And I know right now you guys, you already established in European Union into going into the Canada. So
mm-hmm.
you as a business right now is a multi country already.
Mm-hmm.
Could you a little bit provide information in terms of how do you manage all of that? What's the online channels that you're using right now, like those days, to broadcast about your business? I don't know, any marketing channels and stuff like that. So maybe you can, yeah, highlight a little bit.
So we've last year we launched a store it's actually a distribution partnership with a company in Germany that we distribute their products here in the United States, and it's a brush company, and so they're distributing our products there, and so now we have separate inventory locations. We're going to be having one in Canada by the end of this year, and next year we're looking at Australia. So it's the technology and the environment actually makes it very possible for a small company to do this. And it's the ability to be able to actually manage inventories in different separate locations through this, through the e-commerce platform that we're using in conjunction with our own production software is a unique capability. I don't think this would have been possible even 5 years ago. But now it's very, very possible, and the logistics of it are pretty amazing. And I think it will improve. Obviously, with COVID has changed a number of things in the retail market. It's of course it's pointed out some pretty big weaknesses, especially with the courier companies. I don't know if other e-commerce businesses had some issues, but we had a lot of issues in the early stages of this COVID because these courier companies, I guess, were just simply overwhelmed. And the U.S. Postal Service was completely overwhelmed. Or at least it appears to us. And so, but it seems like things are getting a little bit back to normalcy at this point. But yeah, it's that coupled with so as terms of online, what the channels we've used, we were using more. We've used a lot of like I said, I did a lot of initial off-page SEO just by going to these websites and planting a lot of different information. That changed over a period of time, and so we've used some advertising. most of it has actually been fairly classic. It's we attend trade shows where we meet artists. But again, this year that's switching, and we used to go to maybe 4 trade shows a year, and this year we didn't do any.
Mm-hmm.
And we a couple of years ago we started doing more things in social media, but we found that is also quite limited, and it's good for brand awareness, and some of the platforms are very different. Instagram seems to be a good platform for posting. Facebook, not so much. Facebook seems to be stronger in its advertising, and I guess they've built it that way, rather than like in Instagram where you can post things and you get more following and more likes and things of this nature. But so we've used the social media, but now we're actually we're going back to, again, the SEO roots, because we understand that this is one of the most powerful tools. And of course, the most powerful tool we've used to date has been our e-newsletters. So we did have always done regular newsletters to our recipient base, and our recipient base now is about 45,000 subscribers, and the growth of it in the last, I would say, just the last 5 years is, excuse me, it's basically doubled in the last 5 years, or even less than that, I would imagine. So it's been the best tool. In terms of it, from my perspective, in terms for other e-commerce marketeers, would be their newsletter, and their subscriber base is the thing that they really need to focus on. Of course, there's other tools, shopping cart abandonments, and those are very important points. And we started working on that issue quite a bit in much more earnest in the last 2 years. So we've done a lot more in that area. And that seems to, that's worked quite well also.
If you look back, like for the 17 years back, right? Like you made some like mistakes that you can recognize right now. Hey, it was specifically like the wrong decision. Can you share like maybe a view of the stuff that you really kind of can, recall from that time?
Yeah, I think overall, I think we've tried to be flexible throughout the years, and understanding because there's different stages in your growth that you do certain things that might seem to be very, very important for that. And we did do some things correct. We did take on retailers that helped to expand awareness of our product. Although the sales from retailers is still, brick and mortar retailers are still small. I think we diverted our attention, however, from the SEO area somewhat. We were doing some initial advertising, like Google, at the time, Google AdWords. And we've kind of dropped really maintaining the website according to evolving SEO standards, because we built it very much according to the standards back then, and but we didn't evolve with that fast enough. And I think, and of course, in any small business, it's a matter of trying to figure out where you want to put your resources. And the resources is not only about money, but it's even more importantly for small businesses, it's about the time of the owners, and the owners are bringing the vision, the perspective that is absolutely necessary. And I think if I'd go back again, I would definitely not drop my attention to the SEO portion, and really maintain that, and put a little more attention that we did, and divert it from some other things that we felt were very important, but not in retrospective aren't really that critical.
Did you even work with some kind of company who offer you search engine optimization?
No, I did most of it myself, but and I can't say that that was always the smartest thing. But you see, I have a big background in marketing. So I mean, I ran an ad agency for about 20 years in Silicon Valley, and so I was, and in fact, in the early 90s, we changed our agency, and we had a fairly good size agency. We had about somewhere between 30 to 40 people at any one point in time working for us. And but what we did is we in the early 90s, because of the internet, we thought, oh, this is a great opportunity. And so we actually started to, we brought people on that understood all aspects of the internet at the time, and we actually were doing as consultants for the internet. So, but as is true in any high tech endeavor, the specialization increases as time goes on, and so there's really no way that I can keep up. I count myself fairly knowledgeable in this area, but I can't even keep up with this. And so, yeah, we definitely started hiring more, more consultants and more specialists in this area, because it's just, it's absolutely necessary. And so we've, hired your company to help us out in some key areas, and it's worked quite well. So we're very, very happy with that.
That was about a good point. Like, you guys started to look around other channels, etc., right? You're getting like new people on board. If you recall, what was the that's it moment, like basically some kind of luck stuff that happened to your business, like basically maybe unexpected success or unexpected like a win?
I would say, I can't say that there's any one particular point in time in all of this. But I would say that it was more of our philosophy. So our attitude towards the marketplace, and the key difference is, if we look at our most of the companies out there that are making artist paints and materials, they had, more. There's more of a historical attitude towards making paint and things like that. A lot of these companies are very old. Some of them, Winsor Newton as an example, is almost 200 years old. And they're excellent companies. It's not to say that there's anything wrong, but times have changed considerably, and especially here in the 20th century and towards art, it's changed, and art education is changing. And I think it's understanding this change, and somehow we understood the change. And it was primarily myself and my wife, who's Russian, and we came together and we understood that there was a difference changing, but it's not something like, oh yeah, we know what this is. You don't. It's a feeling, and then it evolves, and you continue to make decisions along that same vision. And I think that's so important for and in my business practice, I've seen this in many high-tech companies that we worked with. It's over the years, they develop a vision about, maybe it's a product, but it's not just a product. It's more about how consumers are dealing with things. Maybe it's something that they need, or it's something that's changing in the marketplace. And one of the biggest things is in our marketplace was the fact that all of the schools that teach art today don't teach how to draw or how to paint, really. It sounds incredible, but you can, if you were going, and I went to art school in the 70s, and they really didn't teach you how to draw. If you wanted to learn how to draw, you had to become an illustrator, which was viewed as kind of a second tier group of artists because they're commercial artists. They're not fine artists. And that kind of distinction was kind of interesting. But you didn't learn how to draw. You can go to an art teacher today. They don't know how to draw. They can't draw a face or a recognizable thing. That's changed. In the last 20 years, suddenly there's all these young people that want to learn how to draw, how to actually make something that resembles something. And that change has also spurred a whole new attitude towards art materials too. And it's just understanding that and seeing that and then developing everything according to that line. And it's not even just the products. It's again, it's the thinking behind it. It's the attitude or the vision. And I think that is very key because products come and go all the time. And, you know, you can point to any high-tech company that has that vision. Apple's an excellent example. They have that vision and they develop, you know, they develop products that serve that vision. And that vision doesn't change. The products come and go all the time. You know, like an iPod, you know, that's, you know, gone. But it, you know, it served a point in time, you know, as an example, so.
What would you tell to the young entrepreneurs who is starting e-commerce business those days? What will be your 3 minutes, you know, 3 main advice?
And again, it's like in the high-tech industry, most people think it's just having something that is new and, you know, offers new technology. But that again, that doesn't cut it. Because again, I think it goes back to having a vision that provides something that people need or want, and it has to be different in some way. It has to offer some kind of benefit that stands out. And this is probably going to go longer than 3 minutes here, but but in the when I was learning in the ad agency business, there was a book called Guerrilla Marketing, and basically it likened marketing to a warfare, and guerrilla warfare in particular. And how do you handle the big giants out there? Well, just like in guerrilla warfare, you can't do a frontal attack against a major army. So you go in and you start, you know, you start sniping and nipping at all their weak areas. And eventually the whole thing comes to a head where they begin to crumble. They can't, you know, plug up all these different areas. And so that's what you do is you find the weakness, you find the weak link in their in their mail coat, their fortress, and you find that, and it's an area that they can't do anything about. They can't change. We did that in terms of artist paint. We found a niche, and no one can actually compete with that because that would mean they would have to become something else. That is key. If you can find something that is unique and no one can copy it, because for them to copy it would mean that they would have to change their own vision. And then, and if it doesn't, you know, it may not be the next big thing out there, but it could be a good, strong niche. And, you know, with the internet, these niches can expand worldwide and can be sustained, which is, again, wasn't possible prior to the internet, actually. Very, very difficult. But yeah, that's exactly what we've done. And it wasn't like, you know, again, it's rarely where, gee, I'm looking at all the different weaknesses. I mean, I did do an assessment like that because I know how to do things like that, but it's not required. It's an understanding that you come to and you go, aha, this is helpful. This is going to help many, many people. And and you drive to that, and you keep going for that. You don't change that. If it's going to be successful. If it's not, then you just you leave it and you walk off and count your losses
and plan something else
and do something else, right? and you know, I mean, in my career, that was not that I was not successful in each one of these things, but I drove each business I had prior to a point where, yeah, that was interesting, but and I've always enjoyed my other businesses, but this is my passion now. And that's, you have to have a passion. Otherwise, I mean, there's not enough money that makes this worthwhile. It has to be a passion. You know, it's just, you know, you know, making lots of money doesn't make any, for me, doesn't make any sense. And in fact, making money, anybody can make money. That doesn't take a lot of brains. It does take some intelligence, but that's not the point of this. If you have a passion, then that's really, I think that's actually the most important thing to have.
That's a nice things for the end.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that you found the time to share your experience with our team, with our readers, and I really wish you a big success in the next year. Hopefully the new market in Australia will launch, and hopefully all the painters in Australia will know your brand as the top in the top. And then I will be welcome you to Ukraine as well. Hope to celebrate that success.
Yeah, well, we'd love to go there.
So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.